My name is Lauren Cott, and I will be talking about the psychology of injury today with you guys. I just wanted to do a little overview before we got started. Injury is very prevalent in athletics. It sometimes seems even inevitable that every athlete will come in contact with some sort of injury throughout their career. It's just a matter of time, right? I'm sure we've all heard that before. Some questions surrounding this is, why is this? What are the struggles with injuries? Why do some athletes come back from injuries and others don't? Is an injury more than just being physically unable to perform? And how does having an injury affect a person's everyday life? Today, I hope to answer some of these questions and further help raise awareness for athletes that experience injury so that sports can be something healthy that people are being involved in. Some of the key points I will be touching on today will be factors that lead to injury, the relationship between stress and injury, the psychological reactions to exercise and athletic injuries, and recovering from injury. Some factors that can cause injury in athletes are the physical factors. I think that's obvious. Our social factors have an effect on injuries, psychological factors, personality factors, and stress factors is a big one. Physical factors would include muscle imbalance, high-speed collisions, overtraining, and physical fatigue. And then physical factors are usually and primary causes of exercise and sport injuries. Some social factors include an athlete's perception that playing with pain and injury is highly valued, especially in American society. This is true. And I think athletes and individuals, when they appear to endure pain and injury, they think that it'll get them to reaching their goals, because if they don't endure the pain, this will put them on pause. And this can actually lead to prolonged injury. Psychological factors include increased state anxiety, and this can change an athlete's focus or attention while competing and can cause muscle tension. A decrease in focus and attention and an increase in muscle tension actually increases an athlete's chance of injury. We'll touch on that in a little bit. Personality factors include optimism, self-esteem, hardiness, and trait anxiety. All of these do play a role in athletic injuries. If someone is super high self-esteem and in a society that deems to endure pain and injury to reach their goals, they might stick in it a little bit too long and create prolonged injury. And then stress factors would be a fear of injury, which can lead to overcompensating. Athletes with higher levels of stress, life stress, actually have more injuries than those with lower stress, life stress. And when athletes have lower levels of social support and low coping skills, research has shown that they're at greater risk of athletic injury. I just chose to include some stress management techniques because this is a big factor in athletics and can weigh on someone. This could be its own presentation on its own. It's really important, and all these techniques have a lot to them, but I thought that I'd include them just in case anyone was curious and can research further if wanted. Next, I'll be talking about the relationship between stress and injury. There are two major theories that can explain stress and injury, the relationship between the two. The first one would be attention disruption. This one focuses more on how when someone might be anxious and stressed, this is a distraction during performance, and there actually would be less focus on their surroundings, which can cause a reduction in their peripheral vision. This can actually be very dangerous in contact sports if an athlete does not see an opponent coming towards them, and this can definitely lead towards injury. The second theory that would explain the relationship between stress and injury is increased muscle tension. It's proven that muscle tension creates high stress creates muscle tension, and muscle tension athletes can interfere with their coordination, which can actually lead to an increased chance of injury. And now we'll be moving on to what actually goes on when someone is injured and some of the psychological reactions. A lot of athletes might go through the 5 stages of grief. I'm sure that you guys have heard of this before. I think it's usually used when someone loses a loved one. But just like when an athlete's injured, they're losing a part of them. And this can be denial, anger, bargaining, depression. And usually the last step would be acceptance of the injury and moving forward into recovery. And more specific stages for injured athletes would be injury-relevant information processing, emotional upheaval and reactive behavior, and then the last stage being positive outlook and coping. I'm just going to dive a little deeper into these 3 stages. The first stage, the athlete might be focused on learning the type of pain they might be experiencing, why they're experiencing this pain, questioning how it happened, and then questioning on the extent of the injury and what's actually going on inside of their body and why they're experiencing this pain. Athletes may start to notice and focus in on the negative consequences of this pain and the inconvenience of the injury and how it's affecting their life. This would lead them to experience a second stage, which would be emotional upheaval and reactive behavior. When the injury is finally recognized by the athlete, they might start to feel disconnected, emotionally agitated, in shock, feeling self-pity, and maybe many other feelings associated with this pain. The last stage that the athlete might come in contact with would be positive outlook and coping. This is when they have already experienced strong negative emotions, they will most likely get to a point of acceptance of this injury and hopefully able, in order to recover, adopt a different mindset of confronting what to do with injury. And this might be where the attitude improves and there's more focus on recovery. Additional reactions would be identity loss, fear and anxiety, lack of confidence, performance disagreements, and group processes. I think identity loss is a common thing that many athletes go through when they're injured. They feel like they lose a part of themselves and they can't self-identify as an athlete anymore. Fear and anxiety plays a big role because when there's not time to play, there's more time for worry. Anyways, we'll be moving on to recovering from injury. The psychology of recovery would include goal setting, positive self-talk, healing imagery, being motivated and dedicated to the recovery plan, and to be educated and knowledgeable on this plan. It is proven that fasting healing athletes use more goal setting and positive self-talk and more healing imagery than slowing healing athletes. And there's a focus on being motivated and intrinsic motivation. There's a greater appreciation for the sport, and athletes usually want to get back and doing everything possible daily in order to get back to playing their sport. If there is extrinsic motivation displayed, there is usually not as much confidence, daily actions are not being used, and athletes do not heal as fast. Things that to help athletes recover would be emotional and social support, to have sustained motivation and adjust expectations. When athletes come back from their sport and they're not playing to their ability before their injury, they can be very discouraged and might not want to keep going, but it's really important for them to stay motivated and lower their expectations for their performance and know that eventually they might get back to where they were before. Emotional social support have a huge role because it helps the athletes stay motivated and have a positive attitude, which can help them heal faster. And to have sustained motivation will keep them focused on their rehab. Thank you for coming and listening to my presentation today. I hope that you guys all learned something about injury and how to approach injury from a psychological point of view. If you have any questions, come over and ask me and I'll be able to answer them for you.